Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to Words of Wisdom. I'm with Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome Asmani. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Khalid.
Thank you for joining us in the studio.
Yes.
Today we're going to hear from you about the important topic of Islam and corruption. What Islam has to say about corruption and how we apply those concepts to our everyday life.
Okay. Thank you very much for that topic. And actually, you know, this is something that is facing us, is a challenge that is facing humanity.
Yes.
And unfortunately, you find even Muslims, people who profess Islam, are also involved in corruption. I don't know here, but in my country, it's a big disease. It's disease number one.
In Kenya?
To the extent that every political leader, a person seeking political leadership, the president, the easiest way to convince people that you're going to bring a difference in the country is that I'm going to fight corruption. Fighting corruption will be my number one agenda. So administrative measures have been put in place, like an anti-corruption commission. Legal measures have been put in place, a special law to fight corruption. But still, it's not there. So of late, people are turning to religion. Christians are being asked, what does Christianity say about it? And for us as Muslims, we have to look at it from an Islamic perspective. What does Islam say about corruption? How do we fight corruption? And by corruption here, we're not just talking about somebody receiving a bribe here and there. Even misuse of resources for diverting resources other than to what it was intended for, the resources were intended for. That is corruption. And in Islam, I mean, the Arabic word here is fasad. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in various verses in the Quran, Inna Allah la yuhibbul mufsidin. Allah does not like the people who are corrupt. And you find that people who spread fasad, which is corruption in the world, whether it is material through material things or even their behavior, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cast those people, and it's a big sin, you know. Now, for me, when I'm talking about corruption from an Islamic perspective, number one, we say it is not allowed. It is haram. Because through corruption, the earnings you get are haram. And remember the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said, a person will raise his hands up, asking Allah, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But ma'akaluhu haramun. What he has eaten is haram. Wa mashrabuhu haram. Wa malbasuhu haram. Wa ghudhiya bil haram. Even the clothing, whatever he has drunk, whatever has given him the energy, even the clothing he has, haram. Anna yustajabu lahu. How do you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer your prayers? So number one, if you eat or you earn anything through corruption, it's haram.
Yes.
And one of the effects, spiritual effect, is that your du'as will not be answered. Your prayers will not be answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's like if you're going to feed your children with whatever you have earned through corrupt means, then it is haram. And one of the ways I've found people, you know, playing about with it, it's taxation, paying taxes. And somebody will come and argue and say, after all, we pay zakah. So when I cannot pay zakah and pay taxation. This is double taxation. If you're a Muslim, please don't mix between paying taxes and zakah. Assume, for example, you are in an Islamic country where everything is done Islamically. Do you pay taxes or not? Because you cannot use zakah to build roads. You cannot use zakah to pay the military. You cannot use zakah to build hospitals. You still need those things, public utilities, you need them. From where do you do that? So when you avoid paying taxes, but you want to get services, that is corruption, and it is haram also.
And even here, in the context of this country in the UK, some people may prefer to receive payments in cash. So if they receive it in cash, they don't have any record. They don't keep any record, and they don't have to account for this to the revenue to pay taxes. And this is a form of corruption.
It is corruption, actually.
Which means your income that you have earned, and you've not declared that income is haram.
It's haram. So that is haram. And again, there is a word also we call ghish. Ghish is like being fraudulent. It's a form of corruption also. And the Prophet ﷺ was very categorical about ghish, being defrauding. He said, وَمَنْ غَشَّنَا فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا. Whoever defrauds or practices fraud is not amongst us. Meaning, you're not amongst the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. Not that will take you out of the fold. It's like you're not following the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ.
And that fraudulent activity doesn't have to be on a mass scale. It could be a small scale fraud that you commit. That you have perhaps, claimed benefits when you weren't entitled to it.
Exactly.
Maybe you showed that you met the income threshold by not declaring some of your income so that you can get certain benefits. That is fraud.
Even going into a shop, maybe you go into a grocery shop and you're given the wrong change by mistake, and you discover, actually, I've been given more than I am entitled to. You should return whatever you're not entitled to. That's also corruption. That's corruption also. Again, you've been employed in a certain office, a company, whether it's public or private. You start converting whatever resources you have there for your own benefit. That's corruption also. Another form of corruption is also you forge documents. They don't belong to you. In my country and some other African countries, it's very common.
It's very common also in Bangladesh.
Somebody has a degree. Somebody has a certificate, but actually it's forged, it's not his. Or even a travel document or an identification document that is not yours, but somehow you forge and you claim it to be yours. On the basis of that document, you are employed. Whatever you earn from that employment is haram, because you got it through
forgery.
Forgery, that's forgery. It's not allowed in Islam. And even cheating in exams. People cheat in exams. That's a form of corruption also. It's a form of corruption. And to show that it is not right, there is a yardstick that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. People who do corruption, they will not do it in the open. Why? You don't want other people to know. And that is a clear sign that it is not good. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ, if you want to know, said, if you want to know what is sinful and what is not sinful, number one, even if you're alone, your heart will be disturbed. Your conscience will not be clear. And again, you don't want people to know about it. That's why it's done when somebody is alone, or when maybe, of course, there are people who connive and work together to do that. But it's not something that you want to do openly. And it's clear this is haram. And that's why somebody cannot say it openly that I'm doing this. Why? It's because it is wrong. And Khalid, what? The way I look at it, whatever is wrong, we know it's wrong. Even your conscience will tell you this is wrong. Although I'm doing it, but I know it's wrong. And that's why you'll do it when you're alone. You're hiding. But as a Muslim, we remind you, we are told, al-ihsanu an ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarahu. Fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'innahu yarak. Your ihsan or your belief should be such that always know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. We know we cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but as a Muslim, Allah is watching me wherever I am. So, alone in that office, Allah is watching me. Alone behind my computer playing with the figures and adding zeros. Accountants will tell you about adding zeros. Figures grow with the zeros, the number of zeros. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you as you're trying to add those zeros. You take a rubber and you change the names, Allah is watching you. So our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should help us fight corruption. And again, through corruption, you're doing a disservice to somebody else. Because usually, corruption will be accompanied by denial of a service, denial of a resource somewhere. Like you find people working in public offices or even public institutions like hospitals, government hospitals. You find that a doctor is working in a public hospital, but they have their own private clinic. So where does he get the supplies of drugs to use in his private clinic where he sells? From his the office at the public hospital. So you find poor people who cannot afford to go to private clinics and private hospitals. When they go to these public hospitals, there is no medicine.
It has been stolen.
It's been stolen.
It has been stolen. Let's go for a short break. We're going to come back. Dear viewers, we have been speaking to Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome Asmani on the topic of what Islam says about corruption. We're going to go for a short break, so do stay with us. Do not go away. We're going to be back after this short break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to Words of Wisdom. I'm with Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome Asmani, and we were speaking, Sheikh, about the topic of Islam and corruption. So let's resume our discussion.
Now, again, when it comes to corruption, there is the giver and the taker. Because usually it's not one person. You need to have other parties to play with you. Mostly. Then some people will argue and tell you, I didn't ask for it, I was given. This is the common argument. And others would say, well, I was forced to give it. I had no option. And people are very quick to say, darura, to invoke the law of necessity. I had no option. It was a matter of life and death for me. So I gave. Let's stop here for a moment and consult the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about between the giver and the taker of a bribe, because this is a form of corruption also. Who is sinful? And listen to the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ar-rashi wal-murtashi kilahuma finnar. The giver of a bribe and the receiver, or the person who asks for a bribe, both of them finnar, they go to Jahannam.
Will be in the hellfire.
Yes. Meaning, it's not an excuse that, I was given. I'm giving you, Khalid. Do you deserve it? Have you earned it, actually? Have you earned this money that I'm giving you? If you've not earned it and you accept it and you know for sure you did not earn it, that is corruption, and you're part of the corruption. Because if you said, no, I'm not entitled to this, I did not earn this money, there is no consideration for this money, then you don't take it. You'll be stopping corruption. Now, the duty to fight corruption. In many societies, people will say, it's the work of the police. It's the work of the people in charge of fighting corruption. But as a Muslim, say no, it's the duty of every Muslim, depending on your capacity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, one of the fundamental or the primary duties of a Muslim is to fight evil. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas ta'muruna bil ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar. You are the best of generations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the primary duty to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil. Corruption, munkar or not munkar, it is munkar, it's evil.
Absolutely.
What is the duty? Your duty, Khalid, and my duty here is to fight it. Some people might say, I don't have the capacity. It's for the police has the capacity. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden you with what you can't. So according to your ability, if it is by word of mouth, say it. If it's by hating it and refusing, when you say, no, I won't take it, this is a bribe, you are also helping in fighting it. And the Prophet ﷺ was not oblivious to the fact that all of us are not at the same level of fighting munkar. So he said, Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. Whoever amongst you sees what is evil, fight it or change it using your hand. Take action. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ. But if you're not able to take action, فَبِلِسَانِ. Use the word of mouth. Like me and you, what you are doing now is the second level. The police or whoever is watching this, if they are able to do it, they can do the first one. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. The lowest level is you hate it. Say, I don't know, I can't take part in this. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. But that is the weakest of faith. So at least as a Muslim, you know that this is corruption. Okay, you're not able to be at level number 1 where you fight it using your hand or taking action. Khalid, you're able to talk about it. You know, at least you're able to talk about it. If you are an imam in the mosque, talk about it. In your office, your law firm, when somebody comes there and they want you to cut short, to follow some shortcuts, and no. This is corruption, I'm not going. You're helping fighting corruption, okay? Mm-hmm. Or when you refuse bribery also, you're an officer somewhere. And you know, again, the ripple effect of corruption in a society is so much, actually. You can say it's the root cause of so many things happening in society. So many bad things happening in society. The bottom line is corruption. Because you're just thinking about yourself, you're not thinking about the other person, which is wrong. In Islam, you're supposed to care about the other person. Put yourself in the shoes of this person who is going to be negatively affected by your corrupt deed. You know, actually, you could even end up. My fear is that on the day of Qiyamah, some people might go there and find that one of the sins is that you caused the death of somebody. Then you wonder, how did I cause the death of somebody? If let's say you are in charge of an ambulance or the repairs of an ambulance, then you diverted the resources to repair the ambulance to something else, to yourself. Then the ambulance is broken down. Somebody is in an emergency. They require to be taken to hospital. They are not taken. They die on the way. You carry the sins of doing that. See, that's an effect of corruption. When this poor person cannot access medical care in a hospital, because you, who is the administrator of the hospital, diverted the resources to something else, to your own self. If that person dies or suffers, you're carrying the sins, no? When maybe we have people who are supposed to distribute, food to poor people. I've seen it sometimes. People who are responsible, in responsible position, leading Muslim organizations, they are given, for example, sadaqat to distribute to the poor. They end up playing about with it. That is corruption. And on the day of Qiyamah, you'll be asked about that. Zakah. You're supposed to calculate your income. And if it's reached the nisab, that is the minimum. That is zakatable, we call it zakatable amount. You're supposed to pay. But if you play about with it so that you avoid paying zakah, that's corruption also. And actually, you're told that if you avoid paying zakah when it is due and the money that you have is zakatable, whatever you take from the zakah money is haram. It's not your money, it's supposed to be for the poor. That is corruption also. So when we talk about corruption, let us not just think about people in public offices, people, policemen on the roads. I'm not talking about this country, but in my country, the most corrupt department is the police department.
It's probably true in Bangladesh as well, to an extent.
Okay.
I think the most important, obviously, in our context here, in the UK, or wherever it may be, it's how we apply those concepts to our personal everyday life. And you gave some very good examples of the taxation that we have to pay, and not really, not claiming anything that is not ours.
Yes, actually.
And those are the things that we really need to be very careful about. Because whatever you may derive a benefit, you may get extra income, or you may, it's haram.
Actually, it's haram. Look at the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. During his lifetime, somebody who was working in Baytul Mal, I think, was sent out to do some work somewhere. I can't remember the name, but we just want to get the message here. And he was given a gift out there. He kept it to himself. Then the Prophet ﷺ came to know about it. This person had gone out there in his official capacity. Then he was given a gift. The Prophet said, had you sat in your mother's house, he used a very harsh language, and that was very rare for the Prophet ﷺ. That means he was not happy with this thing. Could you have gotten that thing? It's like we send you out there on behalf of an organization. In that official capacity, you receive a gift. You're not supposed to keep it to yourself. That's how strict Islam is. Take it to the office, because you were given that in your capacity, in your official capacity, not in your personal capacity. So that has to remain in that institution that you're serving. And some people, when you're in doubt, look at how the beauty of Islam. You're told even when you're in doubt, is this thing, if I do this, is it corruption or not corruption? What are you supposed to do? Very clear guidance. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. Whatever is halal is very clear. And whatever is haram is very clear. But in between we have the gray area. We are told, وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٍ مُشْتَبَهَاتٍ. In between we have the doubtful area, the gray area. فَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبْهَةِ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. Avoid being in the gray area, because by being in the gray area you're going into haram. So if you're doubtful, if I receive this, is it corruption or not? If I do this, avoid it.
Yeah, always better to be on the safe side.
Yeah, you be on the safe side, yeah. So you find corruption is a big disease. And I think we have a duty as Muslims, number one, not only to preach that Islam is against corruption, we should practice it.
Let's finish there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Dear viewers, we were speaking to Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome Asmani on the topic of Islam and corruption. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll see you again in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.